I have the worst luck with men. I mean it honestly. It's like the universe has a twisted sense of humor. First there was Liam, my ex-husband, the love of my life, who left me without so much as a real explanation. And don't get me wrong, Liam wasn't what you'd picture when you think of a gangster boss. Sure, he had the power and commanded respect from some of the most dangerous people in the country, but he looked nothing like the thug you'd imagine. Liam was all tall, lean muscle and pale skin with a gentleman's grace. He was more refined than rough, always calm and cool, with the kind of sharp gaze that seemed to see through me. After the shock of the divorce wore off, I tried to move on with Henry, the accountant who seemed like a safe, reliable option. He was sweet, nerdy, and very different from Liam, or so I thought. Henry's idea of a wild night was binge-watching a TV show and ordering a second dessert. He was the perfect anti-Liam. Until the night two muscle-bound thugs knocked on my door like they were auditioning for a mobster movie. Can I help you?" I asked, trying to mask the nervous quiver in my voice. One of the men, who had the kind of face only a mother could love, glared down at me. "Where's Henry?" he demanded. Henry, who had been watching cat videos on the couch, suddenly went white as a sheet. "Oh no, they're here," he muttered under his breath. Before I could even ask what was happening, he sprang off the couch, grabbed my car keys and bolted out the door, mumbling something about taking care of it. The next few hours were the most stressful of my life. I paced the living room, jumping every time my phone buzzed, until Henry finally showed up again. Barely. He stumbled through the door looking like he'd gone 12 rounds with a heavyweight boxer. His face was swollen, one eye was black, and his clothes were so torn up he looked like he'd been in a bar fight with a lawnmower. "What the hell happened to you?" I shouted, rushing to help him to the couch. "It's nothing," he mumbled, wincing as he sank down. "Just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I echoed, incredulous. "You look like you were run over by a truck." "Well, I might have underestimated some people I owe money to," he admitted, each word dripping with guilt. "Money? What money? What have you done?" I demanded, already feeling the ground shift beneath me. That's when he dropped the bombshell. Henry had a gambling problem. Apparently, he had been secretly betting on everything from horse races to underground poker games. And of course he'd lost big. Just as I was about to start yelling, my phone rang. I picked it up and nearly dropped it when I heard Liam's voice on the other end. "I handled it," he said, his tone infuriatingly calm. "Henry's debts are covered. But you should probably stay away from him for your own safety." I was too stunned to reply. When I looked back at Henry, he was already asleep, his face nestled in my favorite throw pillow, snoring like nothing had happened. A week later, he disappeared without a trace, leaving only that mysterious check that cleared all his debts. Liam's invisible hand was all over it. But I still hadn't learned my lesson. My next attempt at romance was James, the charming good-time guy who made me laugh and swept me off my feet. He was a classic flirt, with a killer smile and a knack for making everything feel like an adventure. James was all fun and games, a refreshing change after the disaster with Henry. I thought I'd finally found someone who could make me forget about Liam, but fate had other plans. One sunny afternoon, I was at my favorite cafe when my phone started vibrating non-stop. First one message, then another, and soon it was a torrent of notifications. I opened the first text from my best friend and my jaw dropped. It was a photo of James, my James, at a bar, locking lips with some woman I'd never seen before. And then another photo and another. He was practically performing a live-action romance novel in front of half the city's nightlife, all while I was blissfully drinking a vanilla latte. I stared at the screen in horror, my heart sinking as the images kept coming. There was James, feeding the mystery woman fries, dancing on the bar with her, and, oh lovely, playing pool with her perched on his lap like he was auditioning for a cheap music video. My friends were relentless, bombarding me with evidence of James's drunken escapades until my phone threatened to overheat. By the time I left the cafe, everyone in town knew about James's bar romance, and his social media was blowing up with the scandal. When I stormed into his apartment that night, he was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone, looking confused. "What's going on?" he asked, clearly bewildered. "Oh, don't play dumb," I snapped, shoving my phone in his face. "You're trending, James. Congratulations." He blinked at the screen, his face going pale. I don't remember any of this," he stammered. "I was drunk. It's not what it looks like." "Oh, so you were just accidentally holding hands with a stranger and singing love songs to her in front of a crowd?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Please tell me how that's not what it looks like." But the more he tried to explain, the more I realized he was genuinely clueless about how the photos had gone viral so quickly. In the end, it didn't matter. The betrayal was enough for me to kick him out, and he didn't even argue. He just slunk away, tail between his legs. It felt strangely like someone had handed me a clean break. I could feel Liam's presence lingering at the edges of my life. He was always there, always watching, always meddling. And so, in a moment of frustration, I confronted him. I decided it was time to get some answers. I marched right into his office. Yes, his office. Liam's organization was so well established that he operated out of an actual office building in the city. "I'm getting married," I blurted out as soon as I saw him. I hadn't planned to say it, but the words tumbled out and I found myself staring up at him, daring him to react. His cool, detached demeanor shattered. For the first time in what felt like forever, Liam looked shocked. His eyes widened and his mouth opened slightly before he managed to speak. "Who?" he demanded, his voice suddenly tight. "Is it Henry? James?" His gaze was intense, his normally steady hands gripping the edge of his desk. "Who is it?" "No one you'd know," I said, folding my arms. "But I guess you would know, wouldn't you? Since you seem to know everything that happens in my life." I let the accusation hang in the air, watching his face closely. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, but the way he said it, too quickly, too defensively, gave him away. I narrowed my eyes. "You're not as subtle as you think, Liam. First, Henry's debts get mysteriously paid off, and then James's fling goes viral before I even knew about it. What are you doing? Spying on me?" He looked away for a moment, running a hand through his hair. "It's not like that," he said, his voice low. "I was just making sure you were okay. By scaring off every man I date?" I shot back. "What's the real reason you divorced me, Liam? Because I don't believe for a second that you suddenly stopped loving me." Liam's jaw clenched and he took a slow, deep breath. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "There were threats, serious threats. My rivals wanted to get to me through you. I couldn't take that risk." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice breaking a little. "You just left. No explanation. No chance to fight back or make a decision together. You didn't give me any choice." "I was trying to protect you," he said, his voice rising. "You don't know what it's like having a target on your back all the time. I did what I had to do to keep you safe." "Yeah, well, your protection has been a nightmare for me," I replied. "I thought you didn't want me anymore." I was devastated, Liam." He reached out, but I pulled back before he could touch me. "I never stopped loving you," he said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "I never could. I thought that if I stayed away you'd be safer. That you'd move on and find someone who could give you a normal life." I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Normal? Liam, the only thing normal about my life was you. At least with you I knew what I was getting into. But instead, you left me floundering with a bunch of losers who didn't stand a chance." "I know I hurt you," he said, his voice hoarse. "But it was the only way I knew to protect you. The threats are gone now. It's different. I'm different." I shook my head, feeling tears prickle at the corners of my eyes. "I don't know if I can just forget everything you put me through," I said, my voice trembling. "I don't even know if I can trust you anymore." "Then let me earn it back," he said, stepping closer. He was so close I could feel the warmth of his body, his presence overwhelming like he always was. "I'll do whatever it takes. I'll prove to you that I'm still the man you fell in love with. The one who would do anything for you. For a long moment we stood there, the air between us thick with tension. Finally I took a deep breath. "You want another chance?" I asked, my voice firmer now. "Then you're going to have to earn it, Liam. No more secrets. No more games. You want me back? Then you have to be honest. With me. With yourself." He nodded, looking almost relieved. "I will. I promise," he said. "Whatever you want, it's yours." "Good," I said, giving him a pointed look. "Because I'm not going to make this easy for you." He smiled then, a real, genuine smile that I hadn't seen in years. I wouldn't expect anything less. His world had privileges and he wasn't hiding that from me anymore. There were guards outside my apartment building now, and when I went out, there was always a sleek black car waiting to whisk me away. It was weird at first, unsettling even. But Liam had changed. There were no more secrets, no more half-truths. He was for once showing me the kind of life he lived, and in a strange way it felt freeing. One night he invited me to a charity gala. One of those fancy, glittering affairs where champagne flowed like water and everyone spoke in hushed, cultured tones. I'd almost said no, but his invitation had been surprisingly humble. "No strings," he'd said. "Just dinner. A night out. You don't even have to talk to me if you don't want to." I couldn't resist that. So I showed up in a dress that I'd picked out without asking for his opinion, sparkling in red like a dare. When I arrived, Liam was waiting for me by the entrance, looking more like a dashing aristocrat than a kingpin. His eyes widened when he saw me, and for a second the guarded, careful mask he wore slipped. I felt a flicker of warmth, dangerous, enticing, curl in my chest. "Wow," he said, breathless. "You look amazing." I raised an eyebrow, smirking. "That's the idea," I said, breezing past him with a confident smile. The night went on, a blur of conversations and music. I'd half expected Liam to cling to my side, but he didn't. He gave me space, watching me from a respectful distance, and when I caught his eye across the room, he'd raise his glass and smile. One of those rare, genuine smiles that always made my heart skip a beat. At the end of the night, after countless dances and conversations, we ended up on the balcony overlooking the glittering city lights. I leaned against the railing, feeling the cool breeze brush against my skin. Liam stood beside me, close but not too close, his hands in his pockets. "Enjoying the VIP treatment?" he asked, his voice teasing but gentle. I tilted my head, considering him for a moment. "It's not bad," I admitted. "But let's be real, Liam. I didn't come tonight for the perks." He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Then why did you come?" "Curiosity," I said, turning to face him. "You said no strings. I wanted to see if you meant it." "And did I pass the test?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "For now," I said, my tone light but my gaze steady. "But don't think this means anything more than what it is. We're not there yet." "I know," he said, his voice low and serious. "But I'll keep showing up. I'm not going anywhere." "You'd better not," I said, my lips curving into a smile. "I'm not done with you yet." He took a step closer, and this time I didn't move away. His hand hovered by my arm, not quite touching, as if he were asking permission. I hesitated for a moment, then slowly I reached out and took his hand in mine. "Let's take it one day at a time," I said quietly. "One day at a time," he agreed, his fingers curling around mine. There was no grand declaration, no promises of forever. Just the cool night air, the city lights, and the faint, cautious spark of something that could be. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't simple. But maybe, just maybe, it was enough. For now.